Hey everyone, this is Andre and Soli with Peace, Love, and Chocolate. We are bringing back the family and bringing back traditional values. Today we're going to talk about
our love story, all about how we met, how we fell in love, all of that good stuff. The good, the bad, the ugly.
Ooh.
And I'm very excited because our love story is fun. And also, God was all over it. And it came together. It turned out.
Yes, I agree. It did turn out. It turned out for us too because we ended up getting married and having a child.
Yes. So
but there was some heartache in there.
Yes. So it was the summer of.
So how about we do this?
How about
you tell your side of the story first?
Okay, so I'll start. I was going to SPC. It was 2017. Wow, I can't believe it was 2017. And I was 18 years old, actually. I was going to school for in the music industry and recording arts program. And my sister and I were asked to start a band for a local festival that we have called Gasparilla, that they wanted to feature some students from our school. And so my dad connected us with another student who was a guitar player. His name was Blake. And Blake then introduced us to Andre because we needed a drummer. And Andre ended up being our music director. So apparently, the first time I remember ever meeting him, I was in the practice rooms at school, and I had just been hanging out with Blake, and Blake was like, I can go get Andre right now. And I was like, okay. So Andre came, and he listened to one of our songs, and he's like, I really like that. I was like, oh, thank you, random person that I just met. And
I listened to Soli sing.
Yeah, he listened to me sing, and he gave the nicest compliment ever. He's like, that's one of the best voices I've ever heard live, like singing. I was like, wow. And I will never forget that compliment. But there was
I just said it to appease you, by the way. I wasn't being honest.
Yes, you were being honest. Anyways, so not even a thought in my mind like, oh, this guy's attractive, oh, this guy XYZ, whatever. I just thought it was really nice that he gave that compliment. He kind of seemed like he knew what he was talking about, and so that's what I remember. And do you want to go now?
That's how we met?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. My perspective of it was our friend, like she said, our friend Blake. I was friends with Blake, which is actually kind of crazy. Just really quickly, the way I met Blake was because I remember I don't know why I saw him, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna talk to him, and just talk to him and maybe see if he wants to collaborate on music, because we were in the class together, but we'd never talked. So I was just like, hey man, how you doing? He's like, oh, I'm doing good. How are you? And I'm like, great. So I overheard you speaking to someone, and you do like music stuff, and I'm a producer. So if you ever want to collaborate, then I'd be totally down to do that. And he was like, yeah, that sounds good. And then we had a class together, and we ended up being partners for a music project we had to do together. So we ended up being he's a guitarist, and we ended up, we did really well for our project. We loved it. The teachers loved it. And it went really well, and I think he also really admired all the production aspect, because he wasn't really that well versed into the production. He was just more of a performer, like a guitarist. And he came in with the songwriting. It was just nice. So then one day he's just like, hey, listen, I have some guy just came up to me, and they're trying to put a band together. Just randomly came up to me. And they said,
my dad?
Yes, that was Soli's dad.
Guy.
And yeah, it was like some random guy just came, and he was like, oh, we're trying to put a band together, and wanted to know if you guys will put a band together. And and I know you play drums, and I know you do other things like that. So would you want to like be a part of it? And I was honestly, I was kind of like, not really, but but then I was like, okay, you know what, fine. Like you hear all that stuff all the time about you're supposed to be like you're supposed to networking and all that. So I was like, okay, you know, fine, I'll do it. I was like,
You
you
networked
sure?
for sure.
Yeah, so I was like, sure, okay, let's do it. Not because it's not that it wasn't, I don't know, it was just like, because people ask, if you're a musician and you are decent at your instrument, most musicians don't actually practice. So when you're actually decent at your instrument, a lot of people ask
You never know what you're going to get in that program. And it's like,
yeah, and a lot of people ask you, hey, you want to do this, you want to do that, and you're kind of like,
no.
yeah, I do, but then you go to the practice or you go to the thing, and then sometimes people are just, they haven't taken their instrument seriously, or you know, whatever.
Not talented.
So I was like, okay, sure. And so then I ended up. She said, oh, you know this girl. That was when he said, oh, you know this girl. She's actually here right now. Would you want to like come? I think he called me or texted me. Would you want to come and like check it out? Maybe you can help us with like, you know, arranging or something like that, or just help us. I was like, okay, sure. So that's when we met at the practice room. However, I remember, I just literally on our honeymoon, I remembered, I was like, that is not the first day we met. Because Blake, our friend Blake, had told me about Soli and her sister, about the band, right? And then we ended up going, like literally after he had told me that, like I think the same day, we ended up going to this Christian like group, young adults group. And at that group, Soli and her sister were there. And I remember he said, the girls are actually here. Remember the girls I told you about? They're actually here. So then I said, oh, nice. And then I met Soli, and he's like, oh, this is her and whatever. And so I just said, hey, how are you doing? She's like, hi. And then I said, so I heard the band, like, what is it? What kind of style is it? She was like, I don't really know. Like,
style.
I guess like pop, I guess. I don't know. And I was like,
It's like
okay.
folky, popish, I don't know.
Yeah, and then I was like, okay. Bye.
I have no recollection of this night.
And so
all.
that was it. That was the only time, that was like the only words we spoke to each other. And I obviously wasn't that memorable because I didn't remember for the longest time until our honeymoon. I was like, that was when we met, and Soli doesn't even remember it at all. We ended up calling Blake and be like, you remember that time? And Blake's like, yes. So that was actually when we met, and Soli couldn't believe it. She was like, no way that I don't remember the first time we met, you know? I'm like, you don't remember? It was that time. But it wasn't really memorable at all. It was just whatever. And I think actually, I don't know if Blake might be watching this or listening, but actually, I think that night he wanted to set me up with one of his friends, and that's why he invited me, because we all ended up going together and just spending the whole day together. And there was some things like they were I don't know, maybe I'm getting the wrong idea, but I just remember like talking about love and whatever. He did set you up
with one of his friends eventually in the
not set up, but ended up happening.
Yeah. So it was November 2017 that we met. A couple days after your what birthday?
I guess that was
22nd?
3 years ago. 23rd, I guess.
A couple days after his 23rd birthday. I had no idea about that, of course. And he was here. He was an exchange student.
I lived in Tampa, so we were in St. Petersburg, and Tampa is about an hour away.
Yeah.
And
but I knew, wait, what were you going to say?
I was just saying I'm an international student, so I'd moved to Tampa 2 years prior, about a year and a half or so prior to that. And
from Guatemala?
Yeah, from Guatemala. Yeah. And, well, sort of, because sort of from Guatemala.
Well, yeah. So around that time, like a month before, I had started getting this itch to like travel, but to go on a mission trip. And I'd been to Uganda multiple times, and I like loved it so much. But for some reason, I felt like it wasn't Uganda that I was being called to. And so Guatemala keeps popping up. I was like, okay. I was praying about it. I was like, okay, I think like I'm being called to go to Guatemala. And lo and behold, our first rehearsal, we show up at his host family's house, still knew nothing about him except that he was a drummer. and that he went to SBC. And we're in his bedroom, me, Hannah, Blake, James, our bass player, and Andre, all in this tiny room. And I'm like, where are we? Like, where is this? Because there are pictures of white people everywhere on the walls. And then he's like, oh, this is
Of
my
white
host.
people?
Yeah, like at Heather's house.
Oh, yeah,
Like
yeah.
there was a white person greeted us at the door, and like,
Wait, no. No, they
didn't Heather greet us?
No, I greeted
When
you.
did she meet us? When did we?
It wasn't until...
Oh, anyways, I'm getting it wrong. But you could just tell, like,
Yeah, I mean, it was their house, my host family's house.
yeah.
So
So,
it
I was
was-
like,
they were
where are
all,
we?
you know-
Who are you? What is happening? So he's like, this is my host family's house. I'm from Guatemala. I was like, oh, I'm going to Guatemala. That's so amazing.
Yeah.
I had no concrete plans, but I was just like, I knew God was calling me to go. I noticed a Bible sitting on his bed, but I was kind of like, I was like, oh, are you, did I ask if you were a Christian or something?
Yeah, something along those
And
lines.
he's like, yeah, I am. And in my mind, I was like, okay, well, because you never know when people say they're Christian, like, okay, are you actually Christian?
Yeah.
And so I wasn't really like still not thinking anything of the sort of like, oh, I like him. But we had a lot of fun in our rehearsals. Like all of us, like we had the best like inside jokes. We just like had so much fun and it was great. And then anything else happened? No. So December, he texted me one night and it was one of our inside jokes. Can I say the inside joke?
I don't remember.
It was about the orphanage.
Wait, I wanna say it first. So what happened? I want to say
what happened.
how it kind of like everything came together, right? Sully was
Cute.
we ended up going. Oh yeah, I remember she saw me at that rehearsal you had too. She was singing at this thing, and I was in a class to learn how to do live sound. And Sully was over there rehearsing and singing, and I noticed that she has an amazing voice, right? But she looked like a little girl. She literally she was wearing an oversized sweater,
Sweatshirt, leggings, Birkenstocks,
and like her hair was all like just all crumpled up, you know, and
in
like
a bun.
and she was just like, and she was standing like this, you know, like no posture at all whatsoever. She would just stand like a little girl like this. And just sing, right? But when she sang, she had an amazing voice. It was like Beyonce was singing up there, but then with like just standing like
Beyonce
this,
and oversized baggy clothes.
and just like her body, you know, her body language, just
No confidence at all. What am I doing on this stage?
you could tell she was. It was like a little girl. So honestly, I didn't really know how old you were.
I thought you were way older than I found out you were. We
And-
were like guessing. How old do you think Andre is? How old? Like after rehearsals, like when Blake would drive us home, we'd be like, "How old is he?" He's like, "I don't know. I think he's like 26 or 23." Or I was like, "I have no idea." Anyways,
Yeah. And that time that I heard her, I was like, wow, she has a really great voice. And then I remember Sully saying that she also noticed me because I was dancing. They would sing Stevie Wonder songs,
I
and I
forgot.
loved Stevie Wonder. I love Stevie Wonder. He's one of my favorite artists. So that, you know, she was belting Stevie Wonder songs, and I was like, woohoo, and I was just dancing, and she was kind of like, okay, you know.
so I did like vaguely recognize him, but I still had no idea who he was by the time we met. I was like, but I do remember that. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So.
And so then after that, we had the rehearsals, and it was nice and everything. And Sully was actually the more forward one of her sisters, and Hannah was just like a sweetie pie, and Sully was more of a non-sweetie pie.
Where are you from?
Yeah,
What
she
are
was
we
more
doing-
like she was
what
like,
are you
so
doing here?"
I remember there was a sign on the wall on the bathroom wall outside, because one of my roommates, they had another international student with them living there too, and he was just you know, sometimes like he would do funny things, and they had to make up like rules for him, because you know, he was just sometimes just wasn't used to the family life that we were used to. And so Sully would like see the rules on the wall, and she would come in, you know, it's like the first or second time, or like second or third time we actually see each other, meet, and Sully's like, so why is there a sign on the wall, you know? And I was like, wow, this girl, like, she's just going and asking around, you know? So I would explain and all that. She's like, oh, that is kind of awkward or that's like weird or whatever. Like, okay, you know, so that kind of let me know it was just like a little girl almost for me. So it was, you know, would behave like a little girl sometimes, but she was more forward, even though she's still reserved in some ways. And her sister was just like a sweetie pie. You know, that's the way Hannah came across, just like a sweetie pie. And then we had so much fun and we got to know each other a little bit and it was just a fun time. And then after we had the concert thing,
the
event, and it went nice. It was nice and everything. But then at that event, I remember her whole family was there. And I remember Soli coming up to me and being like, oh, I think it was Soli and Hannah, her sister, and they asked me, so what about Guatemala? Like, I'm so interested and like I want to know more and this and that and then they told me more about how she's been having all these things about Guatemala and this and that, and I was like, oh wow, and how it was like such a big deal that she was just like God was calling her to Guatemala and all these things. And of course at the time for me, like what I was looking for, I don't know if Soli knows this, but what I was looking for in a girl was like one of the top things was that she would love Guatemala, or that she was like excited about learning about Guatemala. Like she loved my culture. That was one of the things that was like up there at the top of my list. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, she's a little interested in Guatemala, right? But she didn't know that she was interested in the Guatemalan. That's what she was
at
really
that point, it was Guatemala, period. And then in December, he started texting me. He was in California, staying with his sister for Christmas break. And it wasn't even a thought on my mind, but then he just texted me out of the blue, one of the inside jokes. And we joked about him, because he was from Guatemala. We joked that he was like an orphan from Guatemala, staying in an orphanage. And
they would be like,
we needed to raise money for him so that he could thrive and live. And
you could tell this is the type of humor that Soli has, right? And that like the band had this type of humor a lot of the times, and especially like Soli. And so I could tell it, but I wasn't sensitive about it. It was like just being a good sport. And obviously I would tease
you're not
them about.
offended that we're joking that you're a poor Guatemalan, like
right, when you're
orphan.
Actually from Guatemala.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people would be, but I just, you know, I was just like, whatever, it's funny, you know, it's a funny thing. And of course I would dish back sometimes and it would be fun time. And then I took that because I remember one day once I went to I think it might have been before, I'm not sure. But when I went to California and I stayed with my sister for a month, I remember texting Soli. I texted Hannah first, and then I texted Soli. And I remember texting Hannah and Soli because I didn't know whose number was who. Because in the group chat, I still didn't have their numbers down. So I was like, I didn't know who was who. So I just texted.
I don't even think your number was in my phone, but I kind of knew it was you.
Yeah, because it's 617. I had a Boston number. But I remember I texted Hannah, and Hannah was like, because she was the first one that I was like, whose number is this, right? And it's like, who is this? And she was like, Hannah. And she was just like, no conversation, no anything, right? So I was like, okay, I got you on my phone now, you know? And then I did the same for Soli, and I think it was like similar. She was like, oh, this is Soli. But then she was like, I think you might have joked around a little bit. And I was like, oh, Soli's like a little more, I hope Hannah doesn't hear this, but like a little more fun, you know? And so then.
I hope Hannah hears this.
Yeah, maybe. And then, but Hannah was dating someone at the time. So maybe she was like, oh, I don't want to text boys, you know, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then then after that, and then I was like, okay, so Soli's like, you know, more fun and whatever. And I joked around more with Soli than I did with Hannah. And I was like, okay, I sent her a text message and I was like, so all that fundraising you did, you know, hey, I remember all that fundraising you did for my orphanage, or the orphanage that I'm a part of. I'm going to be needing to collect that. So please send this to this address, you know, and I would give her my address or something like that. And then I know Soli loved.
That was the start of it all.
Soli loved that.
We texted back and forth all day. He was in a different time zone, so for him it wasn't that late, but we would be like texting back and forth till like 3 a.m. the whole time he was in California. And a lot of the conversation was just sarcasm and just totally
Joking.
nonsense. It was
Joking, but also getting to know each
I wish we
other.
could look back and see those texts. But, you know, I found out, oh, he sings, and he sent me pictures of his family and things like that. He asked me if I was single in Spanish. I was like, what did he just text me? Because he wanted to know if I was single and all this stuff. And it was so...
And that was the first one you texted, right?
So we were thriving. But
that was the first one, the guy you texted like that. So
yeah, I'd never, ever been even interested in a guy like I don't even know. I wouldn't even say interested because I wasn't like, ooh, I like this guy. But I just was like, I never talked to a guy. Like, I was interested, but I wasn't thinking like boyfriend or anything. But it was just so much fun. I'd never had an experience like that with any guy, even close. So it was a lot of fun. And then one day he asked if he could call me, and so we called on the phone and we talked.
And I remember actually Sully wanted to once we I think we called on the phone and you wanted to FaceTime. And Sully like kept asking me like, how come we don't FaceTime? She's like, isn't that what people do? And she kept like basically like asking like, why aren't we FaceTiming? You know, like, and she wanted to FaceTime, and I was like, okay, you know, like, it's exciting, but it was also like, wow, she wants to FaceTime. Like, for me, texting was more of a normal thing, you know, at the time. I don't know why. But then I was like, okay, so we started FaceTiming
for hours.
And I could tell that's when I could tell that something was up. We were now being like there was something there romantically, because Sully would go she has 6 siblings. Okay. So Sully would go into her kitchen to get away from everyone and try to have like some sense of privacy, even though there was no privacy in her family, because they have, you know, everyone going around. So if I told Sully something, or let's say I told Sully, I think you're pretty, all her sisters would know that I said that I, you know, she thinks it's
no privacy.
Yeah.
So we were talking, blah, blah, blah. He asked me on a date during a call. He was still in California, so he asked to take me out when he got back. And we went on our first date in January. Mm-hmm. It was a very elaborate date.
Wait, I have to say something, because a lot of stuff happened even in between there. Well, from what I remember, when we first started talking in California, at some point we stopped talking. Like, it was just like we just stopped talking. And then Sully got something in her head. I don't know. She got scared. Like, oh my goodness. Like, I don't know if I want to marry this guy yet. But even before I got back, we had not talked. And Sully was like, so, like, are you still alive? You know, or whatever. Or good to see that you're still alive or something, after I texted, I think.
Oh, yeah.
and then, but something, I think Sully, I don't know what happened, but I think what happened is that I didn't text for like a day or two or something. And once I texted back, Sully was like, this is like, I don't know if I want to marry this guy, you know? So then she was like, are you okay? And then we didn't really text after that. We didn't talk until I got back and I saw her in person.
I was so nervous to see him in person, because it felt like almost like I hardly even knew him, because when he left, I didn't know who he was, hardly. Like, I just knew his name and the very basic things. And then by the time he got back in person, it was like he was a whole new person, because I knew so much more about him. I was so nervous. And now first date.
Yes.
He took me on my very first date ever. He came and picked me up, and we went to the Dali Museum. We went to the movies. We saw The Greatest Showman, and he took me to dinner where I had a purity ring on and made a joke about me being married. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm not married. Took it off jokingly, and I lost it, and I never resurfaced. But I was so nervous that whole time. Andre was like so excited that whole time. Like, you could just tell he was just happy and energetic and excited. And I was like, why am I on a date right now? What is happening? Do I want to marry this guy? And we sat in the car outside of the restaurant.
So keep in mind, Sully was 18 at that time, right?
Yeah.
Sully
First
was 18.
date ever.
I was 23. So as Soli was 18, I'm 23. I had been on dates before, you know, and Soli was one of the only, I don't know, but one of the only, I can't remember really, but one of the only first dates where she seemed like, oh, she's from a like Christian family, you know, like there are no red flags yet. So I was like, because typically, like I had gone on other dates and I was like, well, this, like, for example, I would be like, well, she doesn't really have that great of a relationship with her father, but, you know, maybe like it's okay. But Soli didn't have any red flags yet.
Yeah. Oh, that means they're coming.
And so I was like, oh, this is exciting, you know? And of course, to me, it was just like a fun date. But to Soli, she's thinking, is this the guy that I'm going to marry?
I know. I was like, I don't know if I want to marry this guy. Like, he's nice and I really enjoy like talking with him, but I was like, marriage? So we sat in the car outside of the restaurant afterwards.
Well, we had a great time.
We did. It was a really, really good first
The
date.
whole time we were just laughing, cracking up. And Soli, from what I remember that first date, you weren't that nervous. Like, you were nervous at the beginning.
Yeah, I did
After
loosen
we
up.
we crossed the line, she was like, you know, relax, and we were just cracking up and laughing. And we went to this pizza place in downtown St. Pete where it's called Bavaro's. And at that place, Soli did you tell about the?
Yeah, I told them.
Oh, okay.
I just said it fast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then after that had happened, so when we sat in the car, no, actually before then, we were at the restaurant. Soli was like, started to talk about like serious things, like
I know.
about marriage and like. So, what do you think about Christian dating?
I'm like, I'm
What do you
trying to get
believe in-
married. I'm 18.
What do you believe about?
Time is ticking away.
What do you believe with regards to courting? You know, I was like, okay, I guess we're going here already. You know, I was like, all right, and so I would tell her, but I was a little bit caught off guard, and yeah, I was. And then when we got to the car, she was like, so what do you think about?
Did we talk about politics?
I don't think so.
Anyways, go.
She said, I don't think when we were in the car, she asked me, like, just straight up, like, so what do you believe about dating? Like, what is this?
What are your intentions? Why did you just take me on a date?
I said, well, I honestly kind of credited my way, like, BS my way around it. Because I was like, I am serious in the sense that, like, I want to get to know you. And I think you seemed great. Like, you don't have any red flags. But I knew I thought she was looking for, like, for me to say, well, I want to end up in marriage, you know, and like right away. And I wasn't really sure of that. So I kind of BS my way around. I was like, well, I am serious about this. Like, I definitely see a purpose. Like, I don't want to just do it for nothing. But, you know, I also don't want to get ahead of myself.
And, like, hanging out with you, so.
No, I was like, I don't want to get ahead of myself. So I was kind of like, I left it at that so that she would be happy about what I said, but also that I wouldn't like completely say, well, I want to marry you now. And it's not like she was ready for that anyway. She wasn't ready for that.
God showed us that neither of us were ready for that.
Yeah, we were definitely not ready for that.
In time.
And so so after we did that date, I thought, wow, that was like amazing. After that date, I was like, that was an amazing first date. We spent so much time, you know. You don't agree?
Well, I'm just thinking about what I thought. We did have an amazing time, but then after that, I started like doubting a lot and was like, I don't know if I want to like go on, like date this guy and marry this guy.
Yeah. So Soli was thinking like marriage right away, and I was just thinking like Soli said, I was thinking like whatever. Oh, that's an amazing date. Like let's keep getting to know each other, right? And so just a tip for the guys: never show all your cards. You know, like keep your poker face on. Always be like the one that's calm. Always be the one that's like not you're not pretending, but don't show your cards. You know, show it with your actions, but don't be like out there like, oh, like you're just such an amazing girl and this and that. Because a lot of girls are like turned off by that, especially if a guy's super interested so quickly. They're like, he doesn't even know me. Like, why is he trying to so hard? Like, he doesn't even know who I am. Like, get to know me first, and then we can talk about, you know, why you're so into me. But when a girl's like, you don't know me, why are you so into me? So you're just desperate, which means you don't have any options, which means why would I want someone that doesn't have any options? Because that means that other people don't see anything in him, which means that there is nothing to see in him, you know? So so that was definitely, I think my mistake was like I was like, oh, let's keep getting to know each other. And so he was like, I don't know yet. And then I was like, well, I'm not saying let's get married. I'm just saying let's keep getting to know each other. And she's like, but I thought
same difference. Just kidding. So Valentine's Day, he asked me before Valentine's Day. He called me, asked me on a Valentine's Day date, and I was like, how do I say no? How do I say no? Like, I'm not comfortable. And then I was on speakerphone. My sisters were there. My mom was there. They convinced me while I was on the phone talking to him. My mom took the phone. She's like, Andre, listen, this girl,
I forgot
she don't know
that.
what she wants.
I forgot
Take
about
this
that.
girl on a date. I was like, okay, I guess I'm going on a Valentine's Day date with this guy.
Oh, and Sully said, you know what Sully said? Sully was like, can I take my friend? Like, can I bring my friend? I was like, no. I literally said, no, this is a Valentine's Day. Like, it's you and I. It's not like we're going to hang out as friends, you know? Because I think you asked me if you could bring Amanda. I was like, no, you can't bring Amanda.
So Valentine's Day comes.
And your whole family was just rooting for me the whole time.
They wanted him in the family. So Valentine's Day, whatever. Anyways, he brings me a card, a letter that I still have that says, you have a pizza, my heart, from your favorite Guatemalan. And it's a pizza in the shape of a heart and a rose. And we went to Tampa. And on the way there, he's like, we're going to go see a movie. This movie theater plays old movies.
It's an
old theater.
Yeah, it's an old theater. It's put really nicely. It's like a classical thing. It's just a really nice theater. It's like a nice experience to go to this thing.
So
they always play the organ. There's an organist that comes out before him.
So he says, we're going to go see a movie. And I was like, oh, what movie? He says, When Harry Met Sally. So I Google it, and it says...
This is how sheltered Sully is, by the way.
It says it's rated R. And I started to freak out.
So I was like...
wait.
She's like, wait, it says rated R. I'm like, really? I'm like, huh. I'm like, well, look up the parents' guide or something. Because, I mean, my family, you know, everyone that I know is like, you know, Christian, and they've seen the movie. I don't think they find anything wrong with it.
Yeah, and so I Google it, and there's like, you know, there's some sexual stuff in it, and I was like freaking out. I was like, how do I tell my parents this guy took me on a date to see like this inappropriate, like terrible movie? Like, aren't you, like, you're supposed to do, this was what I was trying to do. I was trying to say, Sully, you have to stand your ground and like be like, make the boundaries because you don't want him to think it's okay to just cross the line. Like, I was literally like, how do I just say this makes me so uncomfortable?
So after
the
that,
whole way to Tampa, which is like 40 minutes away, I'm like freaking out. Like, I'm like on this date that I was apprehensive about. Now we're gonna go see this bad movie.
And by the way, I saw like, that's when I saw some things in Sully that I was like, okay, I don't know if this is gonna work out, because you know, she was like a little bit of freaking out. And then when we got to the place and we finally found parking after trying a while, there was something that happened with the parking thing, that there was a long line and someone was there, and there was an Irish man who was being really funny, and he yelled at the people because they were taking a long time. And it was really funny, but then Sully was like kind of nervous the whole time.
I was so nervous.
And,
I was so uncomfortable.
And then there was a couple in front of us, and the girl was talking to her boyfriend. They were like around our age, or probably Sully's age. And then they were talking, and he didn't know how to like do the ticket thing with the parking, and she starts like talking bad about him in front of everyone. She's like, oh, come on, he's like this, really? This is the way you have to do it? Oh my goodness. And she just kind of complaining and like belittling him. And so he was like, that would be me. And she's like, I'm sorry guys, she turned to us and she was like, I'm sorry guys, like this is just what happens. And then Sully was like, no, don't worry, that would totally be me. I was like, that would be you. I was like, I'm not gonna. When she
Red
said
flag.
that, yeah, I was like, there's no way I'm dating this girl. I was like, yeah, that kind of stuff. So then that kind of made the date like slowly was like, like.
Could you tell I was uncomfortable?
Yeah, you were uncomfortable, totally. But I saw it is because you were like a little girl.
Yeah.
So I saw you like a little girl. I was like, okay, this little girl, she doesn't even, like, she's never gone on a date before. This is uncomfortable for her. She's probably scared of me,
Yeah. So during the movie, I was praying the whole time, like, please don't let him, like, try to hold my hand or try to, like, put his arm around me. Like, please do not let this be that, because I do not want it to happen.
And it was not even on the plane, because I'm a very perceptive person. So I can tell, like, if she's uncomfortable, I'm not even going to try to put my arm around her. Like, I can tell I'm not, I think a lot of guys are like oblivious to a lot of stuff. Like, I can tell. So I'm not going to, I'm trying to make things comfortable for her. So I'm like, hey, like, I'm going to go get some popcorn. Do you want some? Just to see. And she was like, yeah, sure. But although I had to say something, that I also noticed something else that night.
What, Andre? What?
She was wearing this dress, and I was like, she looks good in that dress. When she had that dress, I was like, all right, she looks good. She's like, maybe her attitude isn't right, but that dress be looking fine.
Right. So afterwards, we went to dinner for whatever reason.
I had a reservation at this place, and then I called.
And then it fell through, so we were looking up where do we go.
And so
I was kind of like over it. Not that I hated it, but I was just so uncomfortable. I was like, let's just eat here, Jimmy John's. So we went into Jimmy John's, and Andre got a veggie sandwich, which he would never do ever in this day and age.
It was horrible.
He didn't like it. But
the veggie sandwich was really bad.
If you know Andre, he's a carnivore.
I eat meat every single day.
Red meat is one of our staples. So afterwards,
that's hilarious.
he took me home, and I don't even remember what happened afterwards. All I remember is telling my mom, we saw When Harry Met Sally, and she's like, oh, I love that movie. And I was like, what? Because if you know my mom, she's like, no, rated R, no, like, you don't listen to secular music, that kind of thing. And she's like, oh, that movie. I was like, what? It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So after that, I was slowly just wrestling with the idea of Andre. Do I like him? Do I not like him? I was so drawn to him and so attracted to him and, like, so intrigued by him. But something in me was like, no, Sully, like, you don't want to date him, but you do want to date him. Mm-hmm. And at that point, about a month later, or probably even less, he called me and friend zoned me.
Yeah, because that date was pretty much like sealed the deal for me at that time. Mm-hmm. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna go out with this lady. Like, I'm
this little girl.
This little girl, yeah. I'm like, this little girl is definitely not ready, And I'm glad she got over her fear of, like, going on a date, but she's not ready. I'm like, I'm gonna go out with someone that when I say, let's go on a Valentine's Day date, she's like just so excited to go on a date with me and be like, like, I'm so excited. And so I was like, I'm not gonna go out with someone that's like, okay, fine, So I was like, I'm definitely not. And then I saw other little things in there that I was like, okay, this is not gonna work out. I remember praying one time, and I said, God, please show me if this is the right person for me, because I prayed a lot actually which I hadn't really done before I went on a date with Sully. I prayed a lot, and I was like, I want to do this the right way. Like, I don't want to, like, mess up. And I prayed and I prayed and I prayed, because I could tell that Sully was this, innocent girl, and I didn't want to just ruin things and mess things up. I said, like, I want to do it the right way, and I would pray about it. And then after that date, I remember praying about it, and God showed me if this is the right person, and just calling her and Sully telling me some things, and I just realized other stuff. I was like, okay, this is not the right person for me. And then I called her.
He friend zoned me. Well, he friend zoned me twice. He said it in the car, but I didn't fully believe him. And then he called me later that night. And he's
That
like,
same night?
yeah.
Oh.
He's like, I just want like to be sure that you know that like I just want to be friends. But the problem is I had started to really like him. I was like, okay, I was done with that kind of wrestling thing, and I was like, I like this guy for sure. So after he hung up, I bawled. Did you know that?
He told me
I
at some
cried
point.
so hard. I was so upset.
And by the way, Sully never showed me her emotions till that point. She was like, she concealed every single emotion she had. You know, like I could tell sometimes she was excited, but besides that, she was like, you know, she was like, oh, okay. She's like, yeah, that's fine. Okay. But at that point, I knew she liked me, so I knew she was sad then. But a little bit before then, I had no idea really, like how serious it was for her, you know. And then she told me, yeah, she cried.
I liked him a lot, and so that was really sad for me. But you know, as time went on, that was probably about a little, maybe a month after our second date. So probably in like February, March. Yes, that's the next month. And then our band had kind of dissipated. We did have another gig together. But other than that, we didn't really, I mean, we talked friendly. But I was starting to really, really like him a lot. And I really liked him. Then what happened?
I remember I just told her, I not told her, I saw her, I started to see her as just, you know, like my little sister. Yeah.
I'm
I was just
younger than his little sister.
Yeah, she is younger than my little sister. So I was like, oh, this girl, and she's innocent, she's nice. She's going to end up with someone nice because she comes from a good family and she's a good girl. But, you know, she's just not going to be me. So I was just like, and I loved her family. And I still loved hanging out with her family.
Yeah, he would come over and hang out.
So I would hang out with them all the time. And I was like, maybe God just wanted us to meet so I can meet her family and we could just all be friends, you know? Because even way before this, one of the first times I hung out with her family was like, they said, Andre, I know you're here and you don't have any family. If you need someone to adopt you, we will adopt you. I was like, oh, you know, not really adopt. It was just like,
yeah,
you know, bring you into the family. I was like, oh, that's so sweet. Just an amazing family. And so I was like, I love it. And I loved hanging out with them all the time. So that's why we would still be in contact because of that. But I just saw her like at that point, like, okay, you know, she's a cute girl, but she's more like a little sister.
Yeah. So the first week of June, his parents came to see him graduate. That's why they came?
I don't know. No, they just came to visit, I think.
Oh, they just came to visit. Oh, yeah, they didn't come to see you graduate. They came to visit, and we had a gig, and I remember that was when I first met his parents. Did they know that we had gone on dates? Mm-hmm. So Hannah was like, "Oh,
Yeah,
Andre's gonna take good care of Sully," and I was like, "No."
Yeah, he told her. He told my
thing."
parents that she was like, "Oh no, don't worry. Like Sully's gonna take good care of your son."
And I really liked Andre, but that wasn't even a thought on Andre's mind. I don't think it was.
No, not at that point in time.
And so I met his parents, and they're like, "Oh yeah, when you come to Guatemala," because I was still wanting to go to Guatemala. They're like, "You have a place to stay." I was like, "Oh, thank you." And later that week was my birthday, my 19th birthday. This is where it starts going really downhill. You thought the friend zone was downhill. This is where it really goes downhill. So he asked if he could take me to dinner for my birthday. And the Sully inside of me, the little Sully that loved Andre, was like, yes, I will go to dinner with you. I was so excited. He took me to a Mexican restaurant, a really nice Mexican restaurant downtown, and we had a great time just talking. He let me like try his food and things like that. So I was like cloud nine, having a great time with this guy I liked, and he was so nice, and I was kind of like, oh, he seems like he likes me, like trying to interpret, like he's so nice, he just is treating me so well. We get back home and we pull into the driveway, and I had been working myself up this whole time to tell him that I liked him because I really liked him. And I was like, like, I just need to tell him. Why can't I just tell him? And so I finally told him that I liked him. And he
said
said,
there.
what else? Like, he just wanted to hear as much of it and as I had to say, like, how that came about.
So I remember now. So at that point in time, I remember that I was like, that, you know, I had decided, like, no, she's just like my little sister. But there was like a little part of me that was like, you know, maybe in like the future, like this can work, like way in the future. And so I wanted to hear, when she said that, I wanted to hear as much as what was on her mind, so I could assess my situation, like whether it was worth just completely letting go of her or not.
So I tell him I like him. He responds really well. He seemed to really be happy that I liked him. And we go inside and we just are happy. We're like, oh, he didn't really say anything though. So that was kind of freaky to me. But I was like, okay, well, he was really excited. And I called my parents who were out of town and I told them I was on cloud 9. I called my best friend. We were just like, oh, yay, like this is so exciting. And so a couple weeks later, we meet up at school. Like we just happened to run into each other in the practice rooms. And afterward, so we hung out. He's like, do you want to go to Chipotle? So he took me to Chipotle. We had lunch together. And then he went to take me home because I couldn't drive. I didn't have a car, so we rode together. And my parents like trusted me, like going to lunch with him.
By the way, can you imagine, you told me you liked me after I friend zoned you.
Uh-huh. Because he was so friendly and like we were still really good friends, like, and he was almost like flirty and you couldn't tell if like he was just being really friendly or if it was like a like thing. And so a couple weeks after I told him I liked him, you know, we go to lunch and then he goes to take me home, or he's like, do you want to go on a walk? And I was like, yeah. So we went back to my house and we lived by this giant cemetery that's like over a mile.
Oh, by the way, I remember the reason why I said I wanted to talk to you when I tell you. It was because at Chipotle, when we were at Chipotle, Sully was like,
oh.
So it was like, I'm like, oh, so how's Guatemala going? And she's like, yeah, I still want to go. I'm still like planning on going. And then I was like, oh yeah, Guatemala's amazing. You're gonna love it. She's like, yeah, do you have plans to go or something like that? I was like, yeah, I want to go like at some point. She's like,
we could go at the same time.
Yeah, she's like, you should come when I come. You know, like we could.
I was like totally dreaming, like this is gonna be great.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, sweetie, no.
He's like, we need to talk, and I was like, so on the way back to my house, he's like, we need to talk, and that's when I kind of was like, what is happening? And okay, I will go out to say this is was probably one of the worst days of my life. So we go to this cemetery that's right by my house and we go on a walk and we're talking and he's like really quiet and I was like, in my mind I'm like, he's gonna ask me to be his girlfriend, like I don't know if I'm ready for this. I'm so nervous. This guy that I likes me, whatever, he's finally gonna just say it. And he's like, so... And he gives this backstory. Can I give the backstory?
Yeah.
He's like, there is this girl that I knew back in whatever, in Tampa. Then she moved to China. Then she moved back. And we got to know each other. And now we're dating. And I was like, don't laugh. I literally hate this story. Oh my goodness, you guys. I tried so hard not to cry, but I bawled. He's like, it's okay, you can cry. I was like, no, you can cry. I cried. I was wearing a full face of makeup, which I like never did. And it wasn't because I was going to see Andre, because I didn't know we were going to run into each other at school. But I was wearing like a makeup and and he was like, it's okay, just cry. Like, how do you feel? I was like, terrible. Okay. He's like, there's somebody out there for you. Like, it's just not me. And
No, I said something like, is there someone out there for you?
Yeah.
And I remember you said you told me later on. She told me later on that when I said that, I said, don't worry, like there's someone out there for you. And she's like, yeah, and that someone was you.
I know. I was like, literally, what, are you stupid? And I was heartbroken. You crushed your little sister's dreams.
This might be so awkward for some people.
So, yeah, I was heartbroken, and we walked over a full lap, and we sat by this tree, and I just sat there and bawled. And he was like, can I pray with you? And I was like, yes. And I was so mad because I felt like in my heart that like Andre was the one for me. Like, I know it sounds crazy, but at that time I was like, he's like perfect. And so I was like, how am I supposed to find someone else that's perfect? I sat by the tree, bawled my eyes out. He prayed with me. He wanted to hold my hands while we prayed. What?
I don't remember that.
Yes.
Okay, I believe you.
And and then he's like, do you want me to walk you back home? No. And I sat under that tree. I really wanted to stay under the tree until somebody went to come find me.
Like a movie or something?
Yes. But then I was like, it's getting dark. I can't stay here.
But do you remember what I said? No, do you remember what you said to me that time when I told you that?
I said something that was like this is what I said. I said, well, whenever you're done with that other girl, I'll be waiting here for you.
Yeah.
I said, I'll be waiting.
She literally said, well, when you're done with whatever you're doing with that girl, I'll be here. I'll just be waiting for you or something like that. I was like, I was like, to me, it was like, this is the saddest moment because this girl literally is just a sweetheart and she's just, you know.
He's like,
she's so, yeah, I know. She's like,
sad. Like,
I was like, so I didn't want to do that to Sully because I never wanted to, you know, hurt her or anything. So I was like,
too late.
I was like, this is so terrible. This is so bad. And so when I told her that, and when she said, well, I'll be here, I'll be waiting.
I was serious.
When she said that, I was like, oh, shoot. I was like, wait a minute. What? She said, like, she doesn't, because I just broke her heart. Literally just broke her heart. And she was still like, well, I'll be here waiting. And so that little, like, shook my boots off a little bit. I was like, oh, wait a minute, what? You know, because I was dating this other girl. And it was starting to get serious. I was like, so I was like, oh. And then
still so salty.
When she said that, I was like, oh my, like, because I still thought Sully was a great girl. I just thought, you know, the timing didn't align and all these different things, and it's just not going to work out. Mm-hmm. But when she said that, I was like, what? Like, she has so much faith in that, you know? Anyway, you went back home and what?
I went back home and bawled, and everyone was like, what? And my mom came and just sat with me, and I, like, could barely even get out everything. And after that, that was terrible. Like, I was just heartbroken for so long, and I was like, God, what? I really liked this guy, and I thought, like, it was the perfect opening of time when I was able to tell him that I liked him and all these things. And I was like, why this? It was really, really, really hard. So God had to do a lot of work in my heart to let go of wanting to date Andre and wanting to be with Andre, because I really wanted to, and he was like, no, girl, let go and let God. And so I had to do a lot of praying. And a lot of people were like encouraging me, like my sisters, and like comforting me. And but I still, like, something in me, I was like, God, if you have Andre for me, please bring him back into my life. Even though he was totally like dating someone. And I was like, if he's for me, please like bring him back into my life, because Andre was like, you're probably never gonna want to like talk to me, see me again. I was like, no, you're my friend. Like, and I was kind of friends with his sister too, so in my mind I was like I'm friends with your sister, like I can't just ixnay you. I can't just
that's
excommunicate you.
That's something that kind of was crazy to me, the fact that Sully was like, that I said, I know you're not gonna want to like talk to me and hang out, you know, with me, maybe not ever, maybe for a while. And Sully was literally that same day, she was like, no, like
when he said that, yeah,
we're friends, you know, like we're friends, you know. I don't. It was like I saw the best in Sully in that moment, even though she was bawling her eyes out, because I saw how she wasn't, even though she was so hurt, her immediate reaction was not to harbor resentment against me. Mm-hmm. So because of that put her back on the playing field for me. When I saw that, because I was like, this girl, I literally just broke her heart, and she's not, her first reaction is like, I'm so terribly sad. But it wasn't like, I hate you, and like I want to blame you, and I want to resent you, and I want to, which I'm sure she wanted to, but that wasn't her initial, you know. She didn't go there, and so I really admire
the devil
that.
tried to make me go there and be angry and like, why didn't he just tell me that night, blah blah blah, which yeah, he should have told me that cotton picking night I told him I liked him, that he was dating somebody. Come on now. And not like kind of lead me on in that way. But at the same time, I was like, like God gave me the word, and the word was grace. And to show Andre grace and to forgive Andre. And so a couple like days later, he texted me and asked how I was, and he actually came by, and I was like so nervous that he was coming by. But he came by, he hung out, it was fine, it was fun. Before he left, they gave him a letter that said, I forgive you, and if you ever...
It wasn't a letter, by the way. It was literally, she said she wrote a letter, right? You did write a letter?
Well, it wasn't a letter.
No, but you said you wrote a letter, and then you ended up scratching it off.
Oh, yeah, I have it. I still have it. A whole, like, multi-page letter.
And then you know what she gave me? She gave me like a scrumpled up like piece of paper that just said, I forgive you on it. And I was like,
and it
wow.
said, I forgive you. If you ever need somebody to sing with or like talk to or something.
Oh yeah.
Then I'll be over here. Like, you know where to find me, whatever.
You know what? Come on. This girl was like, I'm not letting go of you.
I know. I was like, I told you I liked you. I don't just not like you all of a sudden.
And also,
now that you crushed my heart.
when I texted her and I was like, how you doing? Like, do you hate me? And she was like, no, like, it's fine. I'm like, do you mind? Like, because I was going to still want to hang out with them. And she was like, it was like as if nothing happened. It was just like, no, it's okay. You know, I'm fine. You're still friends with my family. It's still fine. And I was like, wow. Like, all these things about Sully at that moment in time made me be like, I'm messing up here, you know. Like, there was part of me that I was like, okay, I'm messing up, because the other relationship was not going well. Like, it was like amazing, and then all of a sudden, like, it just like was going so terribly. And then, but I had already, you know, quote unquote, made my mind up, and then slowly all of a sudden started to show all these qualities, and I was like, what am I like giving up here? What am I really? Where do I want to go, you know? Mm-hmm. And I was so confused. I really was. And Sully has always said that point in time, that summer was really good for her. That God dealt with her and some things in her heart that he needed to deal with. And boy, did he deal with me that summer. I changed so much that summer. I'd started changing already before then. Because God was just transforming my heart completely. But during that time, it was just like, oh my goodness, just insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so over that period of time, like from June after he broke my heart until August, we were still like friends. Our friendship had kind of gotten back to normal. I still really liked him, was still praying about him, and was getting to a point where I was like, I really like this guy. Like,
Again.
and
But even more because you probably knew me better.
But yeah, I still really liked him. Still, but he was kind of becoming like more friendly. Like I was like, he must like me. Like I could not tell. I was so confused. But I was still loved hanging out with him. But I was like, I don't know what's happening. I didn't know if he was dating somebody still. Like this whole time, like when he said he was dating someone, I didn't know if it was like a couple dates or if it was like boyfriend, girlfriend type thing. So in my mind, what I was telling myself was that, okay, it must have been just like a couple dates because he hasn't brought anything up. He hasn't said anything. He did not say one single thing ever. And so I had no idea. And I was really confused. And then he went on this 2-month-long trip. And right before that trip, he told me that he liked me. But it wasn't like, I really like you. It was just like, I like you. And I was like, oh, I like you too. And we had stayed up like till 1 a.m. talking, decorating for my little brother's birthday party. And when he left, he's like, I wish I could take you with me. And I was like, oh, I wish I could come. Like, it was my heart. The dream and desire of my heart was to, like, go on a road trip and just be with Andre and just, like, I just wanted to, like, be with him and, like, hang out with him.
We had so much fun. It wasn't just fun. It was like I don't know if this is too corny or too, like, a weird thing, but it was almost like if our souls just, like, had started to get to know each other for real now. Like we had really, we both opened up and we both been like, okay, this is who we are and we know each other better and we know that we are starting to see that like there could be something there, right? And so then at that point I was like, but I was like, I liked her, but I didn't want to be with anyone, because obviously I had just been in a different relationship and I had just gone through all that with Sully, so I was like, I don't want to be with anyone right now. But she was really nice. I was like, I'm gonna leave it. I'm not gonna just close it. If it's still open, I'm gonna leave it open,
And that trip, he was gone for like a month. For me, it felt like my boyfriend or somebody was like on this long distance trip, but the boyfriend that you don't know if he really still loves you or not, because I had no idea.
But I was
if he
gone
liked
for more, I think, for longer.
I think it might have been like 2 months, right?
Yeah, something like that, I think.
But, and I wanted so badly for him to call me, I wanted to communicate with Andre, but I didn't also want to like overstep my bounds and like be too much, So when he finally did call me, oh my word, I was so happy. He called me a couple times and I was like over the moon and we talked and I was like, I think he likes me. And then he came back from his trip and I was so happy to see him. And at this point, he was planning on moving to St. Pete.
We might have to do a
I think this is going to be two parts. So at this point, he was moving to St. Pete to work at a church. And I remember meeting the pastor at school at an event because the church met at the school. And he's like, so, Andre. I was like, how does he have any inkling of an idea that we might be interested in each other? But that like also got my hopes really high. Like he like somehow, I have no idea how, knows that Andre and I are like interested in each other. And so we eventually had to talk though, because I was like, I really like him. I think he likes me. Like we would hang out, like we would go to the movies and things like that.
Oh yeah, when that happened, when I got back from my trip, I told Sully that I was moving to St. Pete, and she was like, so
I know, because in my mind, I was a new driver. I was like, how do I like drive all the way 40 minutes on the interstate to go see Andre? Because I definitely would have. Like I was determined. I would have gone and hung out with him.
What changed at that point in time too was Sully became super forward about what basically that she wanted to be in a relationship. Like she became super forward. Like we would flirt, and Sully would like just be super flirty and like say these certain things. And I was like, okay, she definitely likes me. Like there's no doubt.
But one day it was in early October and we were FaceTiming at night and we were on the phone FaceTiming for hours. And I was finally like, Andre, we have to talk. Like, do you like, are you still dating someone? Because I need to know if you're just like leading me on and like playing with my heart, or if this is because you actually like me. And he's like, well, would that change things in our relationship? And I was like,
I was trolling you at that point.
He totally was. I know that now, but then I was like, what is he talking about? He's like,
I know some people are going to get so mad
tomorrow.
at this story. You know, some people are going to be like, I can't believe you put her through all that.
He literally did, and I had to pray.
Don't pity her.
So, yes, pity me. I was praying so much that next day. I was so nervous. I was like shaking because I really liked him, and I felt like God was kind of like bringing us together, blah, blah, blah. But I was like, or this could all just be he's totally leading me on, and he's still dating someone else, and he just is having a grand old time over here. And so he took me downtown. Like, he was like, we have to go downtown. We got to make this a thing. We went on a walk. And then he like totally built it up. He's like, would that change things? And I was like, well, did I even say yes? I was like, yeah, like I would still want to be your friend, but like.
He's like, yeah, you said something like I would still want to hang out, but you were totally cool about it though.
I was totally pretending to be cool. And the inside, I was freaked out. I was like, oh no, like I was trying to brace myself. Like before, I was like envisioning him telling me he was dating someone so that I would not be disappointed. But I know that I would have been disappointed. But he ended up not dating someone. So I was like, oh, finally.
I can rest.
I know. And then the very next day, I think, he told me that he liked me. Like, he came over for my sister's birthday party, and as he was leaving, he's like, can I talk to you? And he brought me outside and was like, I really like you. And I was like, finally, we have an answer. We know that it's not just messing around. And they always say, like, you know, make sure you know, like, a guy's intentions. Make sure he doesn't lead you on, blah, blah, blah. But I was almost certain that he wasn't dating somebody,
and also,
but I just needed to hear it from him.
Yeah, of course. And also, you told me that you trusted me.
Yeah.
Which was such a big deal to me because, you know, especially after we had everything we just walked through. Mm-hmm. Because at the beginning, when we first started, when we went on the dates, I was like, I did all these things for her, and she doesn't even appreciate them. I'm like, I'm not gonna pay attention to her. You know, that was kind of like my thinking. So then I stopped paying attention to her. So I was like, I'm not, you know.
I was like, give me attention.
Yes. And then, but then after when God really worked on both of us, it was like he had placed that trust in a relationship again.
Yeah.
And so she trusted me, and I
crazy.
felt it.
I shouldn't have trusted him. But I did, like, the whole time.
Like, logically, if you think about it, you know, you didn't have grounds to trust me.
No, I didn't at all. Most people would just totally, like, shut you out of their lives and, like, hate you for whatever.
Correct.
But I was like, I don't know. I just trusted him. Like, I knew him. And I, like, also, you know, like, my family really liked him and trusted. Like, my parents wouldn't have just let me, like, go out and go to the movies with him, like, if they didn't trust him and things like that. Like, they wouldn't have, like, let me just, I mean, maybe they would have, but also maybe they wouldn't have. Because I was 18, but I was still living at their house, and I still trusted their judgment and stuff. So I feel like they wouldn't have been like.
But they really liked me, and her dad came to my graduation by himself because they were out of town. So he came to my graduation even before, way before we were dating.
Yeah.
And
that was back in May.
Yeah. And
that was one of those times where I was like, oh, my dad is going to his graduation. Like, yes, this is happening.
Yeah, and also and also it was just they were just so sweet, and I loved them. So I thought, how can I stay in this with them, you know, and how can I stay being friends with everyone and still hanging out, because I would love to just go over their house and hang out. But I saw after all that happened and slowly started to trust me, I was like, this is a nice thing. This is very, and I knew she trusted me. So there was no doubt at that point. I was a new man at that point. I was such a new man, and I was so confident in what I wanted. And
finally.
yeah.
Listen, it would not have worked.
It would not have worked. Because I had before then, like years ago, because I am an immigrant, I used to identify with the whole immigrant thing. So even though my most of my values were conservative, I was like, I can't be a conservative because conservatives are against immigrants. So I was like, no, I'm not for a conservative. Obviously, like now we're both alt-right.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. After that, it was really shortly after that on my birthday.
Yeah. Well, we held hands the first time October 31st. No, the night before Halloween, we went on a walk in that cemetery, and it was like kind of.
This is an infamous
spooky.
Cemetery, by the way.
Yes.
Because a lot of stuff has happened there.
I know. Yeah. Like first heartbreak and then first handhold. So there were these guys that were like walking towards us. Usually there's nobody else in the cemetery. Freaked me out, and Andre was really smooth.
Freaked her out.
It did freak me out.
Quote,
I was like,
unquote,
we're about to get killed
out.
the night before
she
Halloween
jumped
in the
into
cemetery.
my arms, basically.
I did not, but I like grabbed onto his arm, and then
she just went like that, and I just literally just like grabbed her hand like this.
He was smooth.
But she was itching for it too.
Yes, I was. I really had been waiting for you to hold my hand. All the times we had walked next to each other. And anyways, so November 14th was his birthday, and because he had moved to St.
I just want to say something before then. At that point, but before I came back from the trip, I was like, I don't want to date anyone. I was like, the next person that I date is going to be my wife, because I literally was like, no one. I'm not going to date anyone because I only want to date my future wife. I don't want to literally think about anyone romantically in this way. That's why when Sully would sometimes like try to be and like, I like you and all that, I was like, okay. Because I'm like, I don't want anything right now. She's cute and everything. Like, she's nice and everything. I just don't want anything right now. And so then I was like, okay. When I came back from the trip and I met up with Sully again, I was like, okay, God, I understand. I prayed for a wife. You brought me a wife. Like, I knew it.
I told you.
There wasn't a doubt in my mind when I came back from the trip that Sully was not going to be my wife. I was like, wow. I thought when I said I'm not going to date anyone, I literally thought it was going to be like years. I thought it was going to be 5 years, maybe 10 years, and then I come back and I'm literally like, everything that I want in a wife is solely right here.
I told you I would wait for you, and I literally did. I wrote a song, and God was like, my whole theme was like, patience. Wait. Like,
Yeah.
This season is terrible because I had also been trying to go to Guatemala that summer, and that fell through. Like, every single time I would try to like put something together, like go on a mission trip to Guatemala, it fell through. And God was like, you're not going to Guatemala, you're getting a Guatemalan. I was like, okay, shoot. I started to realize that over time.
Yeah.
Which is part of why I was so heartbroken, because I was like, God, didn't you, what the? And so it all worked out. November 14th, he finally asked me to be his girlfriend.
On my birthday.
Oh,
you know how I did it? She said, what do you want for your birthday? Or something like that. She was like, what do you want for your birthday?
Yeah, the day before, I was like, what do you want for your birthday? He's like, a girlfriend. But I totally was like, brush that off, Sully. Don't overthink that.
Yeah. I was like, I'm just going to drop that there so she knows what I'm going to say.
And then he came over to our house, and we had apple pie and a piñata for him, just my family. And then at like 2 a.m., we sat on my front porch, and he was like, do you want to be my girlfriend? He's like, no, you didn't even ask.
Oh, yeah. So I don't remember what I said, but I was basically like, you're my girlfriend now.
Yeah, he's like, I want you to be my girlfriend. I was like, good, I want to be your girlfriend. So, yeah, he said it was something really sweet, like, yeah.
Anyways.
I really like you.
So now that wraps up
Cloud9.
our story prior to, and I just want to say one thing, that when, like I said, when I came back from the trip, there was not a doubt in my mind. So that's why we got married. And that's why I decided, like, we're gonna date, but I know that I'm gonna get married to her. I'm not gonna just date to figure out if she's the one or whatever. And so it was a crazy thing because I'm like, wow, everything in my life at that point just became so clear. I knew that I needed to move to St. Pete, and it was not a doubt in my mind. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna move to St. Pete, and I knew that Sully was gonna be my wife. It's so crazy because it was true. And anyway, next episode we will let you know what happened after that when we started dating and how we thought about marriage and engagement and story and all that.
Next week is our 1 year anniversary.
Yes,
so
it
we
is.
will continue on that, and it will be great and fun.
Yes. Thank you so much for listening. You could tell we love telling this story.
I know. I was not
really
expecting
fun.
it to be this long.
Me neither. So this is Andre and Sully. We are peace, love, and chocolate, bringing back the family and traditional values. We love you, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That's a fun story.